Hi, I'm Paloma Young. I'm the costume designer for Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812. Natasha, Pierre, and the Great Comet of 1812 is based on a sliver of Tolstoy's War and Peace, and so there is an element of the show that feels very grounded in this period world of early 19th century Russia, and that is at the core of our design world. The world expands very quickly and goes to really unusual, surprising places visually, and so even though we start at this core period drama sort of look of things, we go into 20th century, late 20th century punk, behind the Iron Curtain, Russian folk styles mixed in with that, sort of gaudy, trashy, high-low fashion, and a little bit of Lower East Side drama mixed in with that. So the audience members, when they enter the theater, are really struck by the opulence of the space. There are these big, beautiful golden chandeliers and these luxurious red curtains. You feel like you're at this 19th century mixed with maybe a little bit of mid-century Russian opera, theater, dinner club. And so we jump from that opulent Russian space to suddenly you're in the middle of this crazy underground club, Moscow, 1992. We also find ourselves in the middle of a ball, which is similar to the opera in that it's very elegant and beautiful, but it's also much darker. They have to have their visual impact and tell their visual story from a great distance because the Imperial is a very large theater. And some people are the very back of the orchestra, the very back of the mezz, and an important character thing is happening all the way at the back of the theater. And so that costume needs to be striking from a great distance. That is pretty common in the theater world. At the same time that you're seeing that costume from hundreds of feet away, someone else is sitting about 6 inches away from that costume. And so the costume has to also tell a story about texture, about how much money this character has, what age they are, is their personality heavy or light? And all of those things happen with fabric and details that are minuscule. I call them filmic details. The costumes do this double duty, and I design them to be seen from very, very up close. My inspiration for Great Comet comes from several different places. First of all, the score itself has a lot of musical influences. I looked at 19th century Russia, I looked at Regency period costumes in general. I look at magazines, I look at fine art, and I put together collages to sort of capture the feeling of different parts of the show. I looked at Russian fashion designers, and I also looked at designers like Galliano and Vivienne Westwood, and like the way that they use things that feel punky but then elevate them into this sort of very party atmosphere. And we use a lot of feathers in the opera, which was very period. A lot of the headdresses that the women wear are inspired by Regency headdresses, but then they're put together with rhinestones and thrift store jewelry and then these big ostrich feathers. We have a lot of fur. Because that is definitely something that feels very Russian. You look at Russian stuff from the 19th century all the way up to today, a lot of fur is worked in. And then another really fun thing was the ways in which we could use military elements, because a lot of these men would be in uniform visiting the home front, but we looked at ways like Adamant, for example, of a way to wear that militaristic style but still feel in this heightened punky world. Ensemble members, most of the time, they are like this Greek chorus that is giving us information about our principal characters. They are introduced to us like, welcome to Russia, welcome to 19th century Russia. And so we wanted these costumes to have this delightful party atmosphere and feel a little bit Russian, but also feel a little bit youthful, dark, little scary, have references to the military because like there's a war outside. There's a lot of religious references too, and so I was like, what do all those things come together as? Well, they're sort of like punk. We're not picking a specific look of something that I found in the research, but using them to give us a sense of attitude, to give us a sense of color and texture and shapes. So after we go to the opera, Natasha has met Anatole, and we follow Anatole's story to sort of see what's going on in his mind and sort of capturing that feeling of sexual and violent abandon with just some recognizable textures that, like, you know, like pleather is really, I think that the audience has a sensory experience to it. A lot of like mirrors and shiny things, which can be disorienting as far as like figuring out where a person is in the space. And, you know, we looked at a lot of like 80s like clubs in New York and again in Moscow, and just this sort of like, how do you put together these sort of thrift store elements in a way that feel like incredibly fashionable, but also like of this kind of drugged out, sexualized world. So when Natasha goes over to the ball, she's invited by Helene. So this is Natasha's ball dress. It's the dress that Helene brings over during the song Charming. This dress itself needs to feel a little bit more of the world of Moscow than anything we've seen her in before. And so I knew that, you know, this dress should have beading and lace and that sort of thing, but we ended up using a fabric that had these silver polka dots on it. I wanted it to capture like Danae's particular like delightful, childish bubbliness. We wanted to create this world that felt like this sort of swirling cosmos. So I started with a lot of things that are not necessarily even fashion images, but just that, like, what is the way that we're transforming this world? We just have everyone come on stage. Our ensemble is in all of these black dresses that have a wide sweep to them, and they're just covered in rhinestones. And even our male ensemble has like these rhinestone encrusted sashes. And so as they spin around Natasha, who is in a white and silver dress, that they're just kind of like a cosmic storm. It's really impossible to pick a thing that I love the most about working on Great Comet. The design has been one of the great delights of my career. Knowing that someone someday is gonna, you know, turn over to their right a little bit, an audience member, and see a detail that no one else has noticed before. It's a show that I personally am happy to go back and see over and over again.